Hey, welcome back to the channel. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining. Today on the bench I have a warranty job. Now I don't normally film warranty jobs because if they come back to me, it's usually something simple like a dirty switch or a dirty pot or something that maybe I overlooked, maybe that developed out over the last few months of the person using it. So I just take it back in, repair it, send it to them, and no harm done. This one was featured in a video a few weeks back now. It's the Sony TC-K80 Mark II. The problem with this is the owner likes this deck. Got no problem with it, but it has a fault. Let's see if we can get it to recreate the fault. Now let's see. So what happens is you put the tape in, play, fast forward or anything like that. So you hit play and it shuts off. And it immediately shuts off. Now, this is an intermittent fault that was happening very infrequently when I had the machine in my hands. It happened to me once and I didn't pay any attention to it, and then it didn't happen again. So I gave the machine back to the owner. He used it. Now this fault slowly crept up in frequency and got worse and worse, and now it's doing it all the time and it's unusable. See, now it's staying. But he says it might shut off sometimes when it's operating. I'm wondering if it's a loose connection. It seems to be working now. So typically when it does that, let's see here. Now it's going to work. Typically when it shuts off like that when you first start playing it is the tape end sensor is triggered. Either because one or both of the reels isn't turning, or the sensor inside is not picking up that the reel is turning, and that's what I have a feeling here. See, now it's going to work. He said it got progressively worse and then it was unusable. So now it's working. So it kind of depends on the tide and the phase of the moon and all that stuff. So I'm going to go in and we're going to have a look inside and see what we can find. Okay, this might be a little more complicated than I first thought. So it has a shutoff circuit on the microprocessor IC801 on pin 2. It's expecting to see a 10 volt square wave going on and on and off when the reel motor is turning, and when that stops and goes to a steady 5 volts, it shuts off. It says here input terminal for shutting off. While the reel motor is turning, a square wave of 10 volts and 0 volts is applied to this input terminal. No shut off will occur. When the reel motor stops turning, the potential of this terminal becomes a stable 5 volt DC, and the set shuts off. And then it says the set may not shut off if there's noise on that signal. Okay, so what they're doing is they're tapping off the reel motor, and this signal goes through IC807, I guess it's comparator or whatever it is, and it's creating this square wave for IC801. IC801 wants to see a square wave so it knows the motors are turning. Now this is kind of getting involved because they use this shutoff for a number of things. Let me go down and show you. So here's IC801, the main microprocessor. Here's pin 2, the shutoff signal. And it's fed from a signal amp, IC807. Now this also is tied in with the automatic music search. So when the music search detects the end of the song, or when you're doing your fast forward, rewind, or whatever, and it's searching for music, it's going to use this shutoff signal to stop the tape wherever it needs to stop. And that's why it's kind of complicated, because it's used for multiple things here. And I do not see any sensors on the take-up reel or the supply reel for feeding information in as to whether those reels are turning or not, and I don't see it here. I think it's all just taken off the motor. Let's see. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to pin 2 of this IC and see if we get a signal, and if it's a clean signal. We might have a bad signal amp. I don't know. We'll figure it out here. Okay, so here's a scope ready to go on pin 2. What I'm going to do is connect it to pin 2 here. If I can get my ground. Let's see, it's kind of buried here. Okay, there's our pin 2. I'm going to turn on the deck. Oh, look at that, it stopped right away. Stopping right away, and it's not picking up. I was picking up a square wave on there. What the hell? What the hell is that? I got the right pin, don't I? Let's try this again. Pin 2. Let's see. I was doing it before and I was getting a square wave and it wasn't shutting off. Now it's shutting off and no square wave. Okay. Let me go back farther in the circuit and check IC-807. There's a little op amp here. Okay, I'm back again. Let's check pin 1 on IC-807. That should be the output of that. Should be the output here. Why is it have a waveform on it? Okay, pin 2 of IC1. Nothing. Pin 3. Nothing. Nope. So that signal is not getting to IC-807, which in turn is not getting to IC-801. So that's where the signal's not even there. It was there a minute ago because I was just probing it and I was watching the signal. Now it's gone. So let's try. Okay, let's dig farther back. So the signal from the reel motor comes from this board where the driver transistors for the reel motor are located. Goes through a 10K resistor, and then it goes on line 22, goes from this board to this board, goes through a 10 microfarad capacitor right here, and then it goes through another 1K resistor before it goes to this IC-807. And there's no signal on this side here. I'm going to start poking here and see if I can find out where the signal comes from and where it stops, because it's maybe just a connection between these two boards. Maybe you have a broken wire, but that wouldn't explain why it's intermittent. If it was broken, it would be full-time not working. But it is full-time not working right now. If I try it. Wow, what was that? What is going on with this thing? It's turned on. So all I did was move some wires around. No tape eatery. Okay. That is really weird. Sounds like we might have a bum power supply. Ah, here's a connector that's not even connected. Let me see if I can get this back in. It looks like it was plugged in, but it wasn't. This one right here. And this goes, this might be our broken line 22. See if I can plug this in. Testing. Wow. What is going on here? Okay, weirdness is, it seemed to have subsided. I don't know what happened. It was making that buzzing noise like I think it was stuck in a mode. And now it's back working again. Press it, it works. It clicks on, it doesn't shut off. I think this was the cause. That piece, that connector was sitting on top of the other one. It was probably making connection because the deck was working, but it was intermittent because it wasn't pressed on, and it wasn't. See, now it's secure, and the deck is working. So that would have been my screw up. I don't see any problems here now. Everything seems working. Nothing's loose. I'm wiggling all the wires, and it's playing right now. So I think it's fixed. Not much of a show for you guys. One of my screw ups, but then you always got to check everything. Check all your connectors, I guess. That's the lesson learned here. I thought they were plugged in just from visually looking at them, but they weren't. Yeah. So it looks like we got this one. It's working. Let's try this out again. Yeah, it is. It's working now. Okay. I'm gonna wrap this one up. It's a short one, I know, but it's fixed. And I'm gonna get this back to the owner, and he'll be happy with this. So that was my screw up. Thankfully it didn't do any other damages other than my ego and my reputation. So okay, so those last segments you just watched were filmed in the middle of June 2024, and now it's end of September 2024, and the machine is back. The owner is still complaining. It is still doing the same thing. It's playing hardball here. So what are we going to do with this thing? So let's try it out one more time. It's shutting off. Look at that. So obviously it's not fixed. I thought it was. And I returned it to the customer. He was not happy with it, and he brought it back for this third time now, second time. So let's dig into this and figure out why it is doing this. I wonder if it is like a dirty switch. Or could it be? Yeah, okay, let's get the covers off. Alright, so I connected the scope back up to pin 2 on that IC801, and I have it in play mode right now, and it is playing. So why doesn't it want? Okay, let's stop this first. Stop. And hit play. Fast forward. Okay, that's all normal. Stop. Rewind. That's all working now. So why don't we have a signal every time? Let me see if I can wiggle some stuff around here to get this to stop. .807 right here. Poking my finger at 807. Nothing, nothing, nothing. This is mysterious as to why it works sometimes and not other times. It is working. Wow. This connector I had is on, everything's on. Now it's working. I take the cover off and it starts working. That's really weird, this thing. Bumping around on the driver board, servo board, and there's nothing. Nothing going on. There's something back here that's loose or something. Keep hitting it and it makes that noise. Right there. I gotta zero in on that, whatever it is. So give me a chance here to poke around and I'll see if I can find out what that is. Okay, I've been poking around for a while now and I got some weird waveform that doesn't even match what I started with. But I've narrowed it down to this area here where I poke at it and see how it changes. It's right on the edge of this servo board. I think it's like a wire connection, maybe is loose. I have to take this apart here. I'll show you where I'm poking. Right down here, underneath this, right here, in this area here on the printed circuit board, there is a loose connection or something, a bad solder joint. It is really whacked when I touch around here. And I move this harness, it kind of, I get that weird oscillation. Yeah, it's down here. I'm going to take this board out and see what I can find. Okay, I gave this board an inspection with a magnifying lens and I can't find any bad joints on this area here or anywhere on this board. And I know I resoldered a lot of it when I did recapping, but this all looks good. So it's got to be somewhere else. Okay, I'm also searching this bottom board, Syscon board, and I did find one crack joint on C825. Let's zoom in, I'll show you. Don't know if you can see this right here. This is cracked. It's not really moving. This one looks cracked too. But there's a capacitor here. I wonder what 825 does. Let's power this thing up and look at the scope, and while I manipulate this capacitor, see if that's our trouble spot, because I have a feeling it is. 825, C825. If that carries a signal through from one side to the other, this is the main chip here. Where's 807? 807 is down. 807 is down here. That doesn't make sense. Why would C825? But I don't know. Let's. I'm going to hook the scope back up, and we're going to see if manipulating this capacitor makes any difference. Okay, I got the scope hooked up to pin 2 again on microprocessor. Powered up and hit play. Got no signal, and it's doing the goofy thing again. So let me see if this is even the problem. It is a problem, but it is not the problem, I don't think. Let's see if I can get this thing to... It does not want to cooperate now. Just poking the board here in different spots. Huh. Let me try from the top side of the board. I can't even get my hand in here. Alright, here we go. Nothing. Let me check and see what cap... let me solder this cap first. I don't think it's going to come back though. I'll solder this cap and then I'll see if it fixes the problem. I don't think it will though. Alright, cap's been resoldered, power on. And let's hit play. Still not working. Oh, hang on. I pressed on the board. We got our signal back. Oop, I pulled on the board and it went off. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Push on the board. Press the read button. I can get that back again. Okay, back over here. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing and pulling on this board, and sometimes we're getting a signal on pin 2 and sometimes we're not. So we might have another bad connection here somewhere. So let me go through the rest of this board with my lens and make sure that all these joints are good, and then I'll bring you back in, tell you what I found. There is a cracked joint right here. No, right here. Yes, and what does that do? 1, 2, 3. Let me get my scope on this. Okay, put you up on the scope. Okay, power on. Press play. No signal. Let me manipulate this joint. Yeah. Look. Here's our signal. Let go of it. What does that do? That is... that is a test point. Why would that be cracked? Okay, well, I'll show you. The joint in question is right here. Shut this off. It is off. It's right here. I can see the crack. I don't know, you can't see it. It's pretty fine. But this is like a test point. I don't know, unless it's not a double-sided board. This that goes through to the other side. Is this a double-sided board? Let me check. So apparently this is a double-sided board, and the joint I'm poking at here was this one right here. Now it feeds through the board, and then it comes from this connector. I think it feeds through the board. But this board has all kinds of these. These should be all resoldered. They don't look good. This one doesn't look good at all. This one, a lot of these are probably, I never noticed that before. Okay, so yeah, a lot of these joints here don't look that great. I'll have to resolder some of these. Look at this one. Can you see this one? Get some light on the matter. Can you see it now? These don't look good. I'm going to resolder a bunch of these. Okay, I think we found the problem. Let me do some soldering, I'll get back to you. Okay, I don't know what to make of this. This is a mess. This is Sony's, one of Sony's bigger F-ups, I think. All these pins, they're dropped on the board and then they're soldered on both sides. But the joints are cracking. The solder doesn't even look like it's sticking to the pin. They use some kind of copper pin that's coated with something. But I think I got it fixed. Now we have the tape deck working and it's not shutting off. So hallelujah for that. But this board needs to be removed and reworked. You need to remove all these stupid pins and put a piece of wire, a proper piece of wire. I tried soldering from the other side, but the solder flows through the hole and it blobs up on this side. So you can see here, I'll shut this off. You can see here where I soldered on the back side, and then the solder flows through and makes a big blob, and it doesn't really stick to the pin very good. But it is repaired now, I think. But there's a lot of these pins need to be addressed, I think. They're all over the board too. The whole board has them. And that's the only board that has them, is this one. I don't know what they were thinking. But it's working now, so I'm going to give it a test and give it back to the customer. Okay, the deck's up and running, but when I poke the board, certain spots, see, look at this. This is not good. So we still have a dumb connection somewhere. There it is. What is that? It's in the, not the wiring. So we're not fixed yet. We still have an issue. Poking around. Seems like it's on this side. I'm going to keep poking at this until I find what's going on here, because this can't... Where is it? On my stick. Maybe I got another bad connection here somewhere. Right here. Hitting on the board and getting random noise. I think I actually made it go away by just banging on it. Okay, I'm going to give this thing a good inspection by eye, and then I'm going to resolder what I can't trust, and then we're going to see. Okay, I'm pretty confident that I found the problem and I corrected it. Now I did have a problem with, let me show you on the scope. Like I did have a problem with this noise here that was coming on the screen of the scope, and I figured out what it was. It's my crappy ground connection on my probe. It seems to be loose and it's causing this. So that threw me for a loop as well. But I'm confident that I got this fixed. This time it's going to work. It's been working now for about an hour, and get a steady signal on the scope. This board, the way Sony did this is garbage. They shouldn't have never done this. They have drilled holes wherever they want to feed through the board. It's a double-sided board, and they drill a hole, a large diameter hole it seems, and they drop this funny pin, and it's not really a pin, it's just like a lump of metal through there, and then they solder it on both sides. I think they wave solder it at the factory first, and then they come later and they do the top by hand. But these solder connections are all cracking, and they need to be removed and replaced with a chunk of wire. I think that's the only solution for this. To do that, you have to remove this board, and that's quite a chore in itself, because you have to, well, there's quite a few wires. You remove the power supply wires here and disconnect all the connectors, and I think there's a ground wire, and then you can flip the unit upside down, and then you can swing the board out. It's probably the way you have to do it. You have to swing the board out, because all along the back of that board there, the front, it's all wires. If you want to disconnect all those wires, it's quite a job, but I wouldn't do that. I would just leave connected and swing the board out, and then it's going to take some time, and I don't have the time to do that right now. I'm going to give it back to the customer. If it so happens that it gives another problem, that's my next solution, is going to resolder that, fix up all those vias. And yeah, it's a pretty poor job, Sony. You could have done better. So that's it for this one. I'm going to put it back together, clean it up, and get it back to the owner. And hopefully that's the last time I ever see this thing. So take care, thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.